Thank you, and good morning. I work with the Police Executive Research Forum, which is a police membership and research organization whose members include hundreds of chief executives from police agencies around the country. The issue of gun violence is obviously one of great concern to our members and to society. In 2008, there were nearly 11,000 murders with guns in the U.S. and over 300,000 non-fatal violent crimes committed with guns. Full costs of gun violence in the U.S. could be well over $100 billion per year. Yet finding common ground for legislative solutions to the problem is difficult, making it more critical to effectively utilize other prevention and enforcement strategies. And federal, state, and local law enforcement agencies are central to these efforts. Today, I'd like to briefly review some of the research on police strategies to reduce gun violence. Growing evidence suggests that efforts targeted on high-risk places, behaviors, and actors are effective, particularly when conducted in the context of multi-agency problem-solving efforts. Partnerships with federal agencies have also become increasingly important to state and local efforts to reduce gun crime. But overall, there's still a great deal that we don't know about the use or effectiveness of many police strategies for reducing gun crime. Now, by way of background, criminal justice strategies to reduce gun violence include a wide array of efforts to interrupt the illegal supply of guns, to deter illegal gun possession and carrying, and to toughen responses to illegal gun use, as well as various education prevention strategies and comprehensive strategies that involve a range of enforcement and prevention initiatives. And law enforcement agencies can be integral in all of these areas. Police efforts can range from gun trafficking investigations to the distribution of gun safety devices. But today I'd like to highlight a few strategies that have proved effective in a number of research studies. One of these is deterring gun carrying in high crime areas. In general, as David mentioned, we know that crime tends to be clustered in small areas or places that we refer to as hotspots, and research shows that police strategies focused on hotspots are in general quite successful. So one approach for targeting hotspots of gun crime is for police to crack down on gun carrying in these places. Gun carrying obviously is a necessary element for the commission of many gun crimes, and we know that many gun offenders carry firearms on a regular basis. So in its most basic form, the strategy involves putting additional patrol resources in hotspots to increase visibility and deterrence, and for officers to focus on gun detection through traffic stops and pedestrian checks. Now, studies done both inside and outside the U.S. suggest that targeted crackdowns on gun carrying reduce gun crime substantially and improve citizens' perceptions in targeted areas, and that citizens are supportive of these efforts, particularly when they're consulted in advance. Studies in the U.S. in particular have shown reductions of roughly 1/3 to over 70% in gun crime in targeted areas. There's also national data to suggest that these sorts of efforts have become more common in recent decades and contributed to reductions in gun crime and homicide throughout the country. Now, turning to another evidence-based approach, we also know that many people involved in gun violence, both as offenders and as victims, are gang members, probationers, parolees, and others with prior criminal histories, so efforts targeting these groups are also quite important. One highly successful initiative of this sort was Boston's Operation Ceasefire, conducted in 1996. This was a collaborative problem-solving effort involving police, prosecutors, probation and parole officers, federal officials, researchers, and other government agencies and community groups who, working together, focused their efforts on chronic youth offenders associated with violent gangs. And through both direct meetings and indirect channels, they warned gang members that further violence by anyone in the gang would bring a targeted crackdown on the entire gang, including referrals for federal prosecution, and they followed through on those threats as needed. At the same time, they also made various social services available to the youth to provide them with positive alternatives. And an evaluation of the program found that it reduced youth homicide in Boston by 63%. Now, this strategy has come to be known as the pulling levers strategy, in reference to the fact that authorities pull all available levers, so to speak, in gaining compliance by targeted groups, and it's become a blueprint for many national and local efforts, including Project Safe Neighborhoods, a federal project led by U.S. attorneys' offices around the country. Here you see the key elements of the pulling lever strategy. Note in particular stressing direct communication of the strategy to targeted groups, and also the threat of federal prosecution. Penalties for many gun crimes are more certain and severe in the federal system than in many state systems, and this also underscores the growing federal role in reducing gun crime problems around the country. Now, I'm sure that many of you have heard of Boston's Operation Ceasefire, but the update to the story is that there have been several additional studies showing that pulling levers or similar strategies are effective. Here I've highlighted some of the leading studies. Many of these efforts have been done through Project Safe Neighborhoods, which according to recent research has helped to reduce violence in many cities around the country. Now, note that there can be difficulties in launching and sustaining these sorts of multi-agency collaborations. Indeed, over time, even the Boston project lost momentum. But the research suggests that these efforts are effective when they're implemented well. So crackdowns on gun carrying and pulling levers are leading examples of evidence-based strategies for reducing gun crime by targeting high-risk areas and actors. But as I said at the outset, there's still a great deal that we don't know about the use or impacts of many other police strategies. To illustrate, I'd like to highlight supply-side efforts. With the exception of gun buyback programs, which, though popular, do not appear to reduce gun crime, we know relatively little about police use of other strategies to attack the illegal firearms market, including things like tracing the sales histories of crime guns, investigating straw purchases, monitoring licensed dealers and gun shows, and the like. Now, federal authorities, notably ATF, conduct gun trafficking investigations and monitor licensed dealers around the country, but their resources are stretched thin, so state and local efforts can be quite important. Of course, the tools available to police to address the illegal firearms market vary substantially depending on state and local laws. But even in places with more comprehensive gun laws, we know relatively little about police uses or experiences with these laws. And this is a critical missing link in the debate over many gun control laws. We know little about the implementation or enforcement of many such laws. And whether law enforcement can significantly reduce the availability of guns to offenders still remains an important and largely unanswered question. To examine these and other relevant issues, the Police Executive Research Forum is currently conducting a national study of gun enforcement and gun violence prevention efforts being used by police in large cities around the country. Through a national survey, case studies, and a summit meeting to be held in just a few weeks, we'll be looking at a wide array of practices and strategies that agencies are using and trying to determine which ones appear to be most effective. We'll also be looking at some of the factors that facilitate or hinder these strategies, including things like strengths and weaknesses in different gun laws and the handling of gun offenders by prosecutors and courts. Ultimately, we'll be trying to determine really what works best for agencies operating in different types of legal environments. This, I think, will be one of the most extensive studies that's been done to date on this issue. It should yield a lot of valuable data on what agencies are doing to combat gun crime and on strategies that appear promising for further research and evaluation. And we look forward to being able to share those results with you sometime early next year. Thank you.